Maayong hapon at magandang hapon sa ating lahat. I'm Bonn Atienza, the HR Head of Community Developers in Construction Corporation, a PHINMA property subsidiary, and I will be your segment host to anticipate these. In this segment, we'll talk about the upcoming events, innovations, ideas, breakthrough that we need to look forward to. This is Anticipate This, annual conference, new things, and rule of engagement. For this episode, we are going to dive in detail about our upcoming 59th annual conference, which for the very first time ever will be in a hybrid setup, meaning online and on-site. So with this, there are new things to be excited about and new rules of engagements to be established. Now, to talk us through this event, we have here the expert himself, the Vice President and Chief Content Officer of ASEAMETRICS, a consulting firm renowned for technology-based HR solutions, and the Chief Learning Architect of 2022 PHINMA Annual Conferences. Let us welcome Sir Bong Austero.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Bon. Maayong hapon sa inyong tanan. O kaya nga, kulop kayo nga tanan. Magandang hapon po. Hopefully, this time around, my connection will will sustain. I remember being in the same forum last year, and I think my connection died out in the middle of it. So I'm looking forward to an exciting conversation this afternoon.
Okay, welcome Sir Bong to our segment, and it is an honor to have you as my guest this afternoon. Now, with the new hybrid setup, Sir Bong, for our conference, we would like to ask some questions. Will that be all right, Sir Bong?
My pleasure, Bon.
Okay, here we go. What is the difference in this year annual conference compared to the last or to the past annual conference?
Well, I've been Chief Learning Architect of 22 PMOP conferences. This is the 22nd year that I'm sharing the program. And every year, we always tell people, this year's conference is different from all the previous conferences. Because I like to believe that's also true, no? Every conference chairperson comes in with new ideas, and we like to package the annual conference, as a unique learning event every year. But this year is truly unique and different in many ways. First of all, as you said, as Beth Nasol said it earlier, this is the first time that we're going to go hybrid, okay? The thing is, when people talk about hybrid, generally they talk about just two things, online and face-to-face. In reality, that's a very limited conception of hybrid, no? When I say hybrid, really, it means tapping into all possible modes of learning, okay? Which can mean, personal learning, reflective learning, social learning, but online learning, of course, face-to-face, learning through networking, learning by having fun, and learning vicariously. So all of these things put together, is present in the annual conference, because the PMOP annual conference is truly the learning event of the year in terms of HR in the Philippines. It's also the biggest marketplace of ideas as far as HR is concerned in the Philippines. One, hybrid. And when I say hybrid, it truly hybrid learning experience for everybody. The second one, Bon, is of course the theme. Like I said, I've sat in the programs committee of the annual conference for so long, okay, that I always make it a point to announce that this is the last time I'm doing it every year. For the very, very first time, okay, we're actually putting a stake, and I'd like to congratulate Beth Nasol for succeeding in doing this. We've actually succeeded in coming up with a theme, okay, that's not really specifically HR, but putting HR in a larger context, which is very critical, okay, for the moment, no, which is putting it in a larger context, which is regeneration, and not just regeneration, but co-regeneration. Okay, I think that's a critical challenge that we all need to acknowledge moving forward as we exit the pandemic, because truly HR does not exist in a vacuum. We cannot isolate ourselves from everything that's happening around us. And finally, as Beth also said, For the first time, we're actually integrating the awards into the annual conference so that the awards is no longer seen as just a separate learning event, but something that we can all learn from as well during the annual conference. Bon?
Yes, good to hear that, Sir Bong. And here's my second question. Tell me about the new rules of engagements for this year's annual conference.
Oh, okay. Well, you know, the annual conference means different things to different people. Obviously, everybody comes to the annual conference with his own or her own set of expectations, and I've been going to the PIMA conference for so many years, but every conference means is a different experience for me. No, but obviously for the people who are joining the conference for the very first time, it's really going to be an exciting learning experience. Okay, um, for those who are going into the conference from with a consumer perspective, they're there to learn specific things that they need to apply in their organization. There's a lot to learn also on the experience because for the first time, and I keep saying this for the first time, it's the first time that we actually have a real context that's very specific in this annual conference. In the past, kasi we always design or curated sessions in the context of the larger challenges for HR or the larger challenges for the business community. But this time around, we have a real specific elephant in the room, and that is that we're exiting a pandemic and the needs of people and organizations are very real and palpable. You can actually almost feel them. And because of this, the need to bridge theory and practice has never become as clear as it is today, And for people who are learning, who want to know about what worked and what didn't work and what they need to do to re-engage people or to strategize or whatever it is that they need to learn. There's something in it. There's something in the annual conference for you. We have 7 tracks in the concurrent session. So that's like more than 20 specific learning sessions that you can pick from. But more importantly, I guess what's important is that when you talk about the rules of engagement, this conference will try hard to narrow a very critical gap that we're all seeing. We're coming from the pandemic, and therefore there's this whole sense of fragmentation and social isolation that continues to linger. No, and therefore giving rise to phenomena such as the Great Resignation or quiet quitting, or all of these things. No, and therefore there's a need to really narrow what we call the knowing and doing gap, because we all know what our problems are, especially when it comes to saving the environment or being more sustainable or advocating a common good or all of these things. No? But we need to focus on narrowing that knowing and doing gap. Okay, and this is a conference that will try to do that through many different ways. Okay, so as they all said, social learning is the best mode of learning, and hopefully, we all learn from each other in this conference.
I agree, Sir Bong. At knowing that people is a social being at matagal tayong nakulong because of this pandemic, for sure, the new rules for engagement, yan yung pakakaabangan ng mga attend ng conference for sure, because we have this hybrid. We have in our business setup, merong naka-on-site, may naka-online. So, paano natin sila i-engage talaga sa business ng sabay? Yun, for sure, yun ang aabangan ng mga attend ng conference.
And also, Bon, I think it's also important to highlight that the rules of engagement does not necessarily apply to how you acquire information from outside, but also where you're situated in your system. For some people, it's effective. They're moved by it because it affects them emotionally. But for many, it's intellectual. So and for many, it's different modes. So I think that this conference, has been designed to meet a diverse, as many and as diverse a need as possible.
With that, Sir Bong,
What?
we have so much to look forward to in our upcoming annual conference and also the PMAP Awards, as you mentioned. Before we end our segment, Sir Bong, do you have any message to our viewers?
Oh, okay. Well, the annual conference, is can be seen in many different ways. But for me personally, I've always seen it as an oasis of sorts for HR professionals. Okay, it's a place where we can all drink and imbibe wisdom from not only from the speakers but from each other. It's also a golden opportunity for everybody to finally meet everybody else in person. Okay,
Yeah,
because we haven't done
I
it
agree.
in
I agree.
so long. Okay, and it's always a different experience, to be able to reach out and touch somebody physically. Personally, I'm looking forward to that experience, and I hope everybody else is also.
Thank you, Sir Bong, and we are happy to have you, and we are looking forward na maging guest ka ulit namin dito. And to our viewers, maraming salamat po. Once again, I'm Bonn Atienza, your segment host to anticipate this. Back to you, Miss Joanne.